What's going on, everyone? So Giannis Antetokounmpo appears to be on his way out. According to reports from Brian Windhorst, right? He said that Giannis has already requested a trade this past offseason, but he is committed to finishing out this season. Obviously there must have been, according to Brian Windhorst, take that as you may. I know he can kind of be hit and miss sometimes, but according to him, essentially in a nutshell, Giannis said he wants to be traded. Not happy, wants to be traded. Bucks kind of like, hey, let's try to figure some stuff out. And then ultimately, Giannis is still frustrated. So I think if you're Milwaukee, it makes the most sense to trade him in the offseason than trade deadline. You might be able to get more because you might get a team that's like, hey, we're right there. Like Giannis could be the difference to put us over. Or you might get that team that's like, man, we get a year and a half of Giannis, right? Maybe we can convince him to stay type thing, like a Donovan Mitchell thing. But the problem is it's really hard to match salaries and do all that stuff in the during the regular season, right? You usually have to lump in more team stuff where it'd be easier, it'd be cleaner. Also, you're going to have teams that have more cap space and more assets that open up and all stuff like that. So you might be able to make a move. Problem is, too, Milwaukee doesn't have a lot of power, right? Giannis in the offseason is going to have all the power. So if he's like, hey, I only want to go to a Knicks or I only want to go to a Lakers, guess what? You're not going to get as much of a return. This is something that I've talked about very heavily for really years now, right? Is that Milwaukee needed to trade Giannis a couple years ago. They did. A couple years ago, you saw it wasn't going to happen. The year that they went and got Dame was the year that they needed to trade him, right? And I even said, again, made videos about it. And I said, I don't think this Dame and Giannis thing is going to work. Everyone's ready to crown them kings. Talked about how Dame is not who he wanted. This was like prime Dame. Maybe this is a different situation. I don't buy them as like the best duo in all the basketball and all that stuff. And I just think, Milwaukee keeps digging this hole, right? They keep digging this hole to try to keep Giannis. They're trying to hold on for dear life. The relationship's done. It's over. And you're going to end up digging a hole. The more you dig, the harder it is to get out of, the longer it's going to take to get out of, right? You did all this, configuring and doing all this stuff to go get Miles Turner, which had you now waive and extend Damian Lillard, who is probably going to leave in the offseason anyway, but now you're on the hook for him for, $25 million a year for the next few years. You're going to get a great return for Giannis, but you're probably not going to get the return you would have gotten a couple years ago for him. And it just, I get it. It's hard. No one wants to be the team that trades Giannis, right? Like you don't want to be the team that's like, man, this is the first guy to this is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar all over again. Lou Alcindor all over again, right? This is, your proudest championship, ultimately unhappy, wants out, right? But you got to at some point see the writing on the wall. And I think the writing on the wall was years ago because I talked about it years ago, right? I was like, this is very clear. Trade Giannis. Stop trying to do all this stuff that's hurting the franchise. And, obviously Bucks fans, they're tied to Giannis, so they don't want to see him go. Anytime I talk about that, anytime I mention that, I always get Bucks fans that are like, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? We're here. Giannis, one of us was right? Based on the reports. We'll see if he actually ultimately gets traded, but it kind of feels like I'm heading in the right direction, right? And talked about this for years that this was eventually going to happen. And here's the problem. They're going to now trade Giannis. Again, you're not going to get the return you would have gotten a couple years ago. You're in purgatory right now. You don't have no control of your future. You have no assets. You got Damian Lillard on the hook for the next few years. It couldn't be any worse if you're Milwaukee. Where a couple years ago, you were actually in decent shape. You still had a couple assets. You didn't have all this cap space that you were going to have to be tied to and all this stuff, right? You could have gotten a monster return for Giannis and maybe by now been as good, if not better than you are right now with a more promising future. But no, again, I get it. But even from a Giannis side of things, it's time for Giannis to go, right? This doesn't have to end disastrously, but it kind of feels like it's going to end up heading in that direction. Giannis is deleting all his social media and all this. It's not what you wanted, right? You want this to end peacefully. Hey, we talked about it. The best position for us as an organization, the best position for Giannis as a player. We want to see him have as much success as possible, blah, blah, blah. You go in, You trade him, you do it with the handshake, everyone's happy, the media and the fans and everybody. Like, I think most fans understand and get it. Most fans kind of like, again, you're not going to be able to magically make the Bucks a contender. You're not going to be able to get another star, and it's not even like no one wants to come to Milwaukee thing. It's you don't have a way to do it. Like, you don't have a way to go get him that other guy. And they're doing all these things and, jumping through hoops to get guys like Kyle Kuzma. And it's like, well, I get the idea, but it's like, he's inefficient. Like, again, it's understanding these players. And then you go and, go get and wave and do all this stuff to go get Miles Turner. And it's like, I get it's an upgrade over Brook Lopez, but now you're going to have to rebuild. So now you got to trade Miles Turner, right? Like, which again, it's good. At least you get some assets, stuff like that for him. But the problem is like now, like, what kind of package do you get if you're the Bucks, right? Like, because you can't bottom out. All your picks are either swaps or basically you don't own. So you can't bottom out. So you have to get a package that gives you a good enough now return with some upside, right? So you almost need something like, if Austin Reeves wants to come, like some type of Lakers trade where you get like a Adu Thero and Dalton Connects. You get like two young guys, Austin Reeves, if he can show what he can do in the playoffs, right? And then like Lakers would have a bunch of firsts and stuff. So you get like that guy, that franchise, that cornerstone guy for you, and pair alongside Miles Turner and all your athletic wings, stuff like that. And then you got two kind of young guys that you basically hopefully can turn around. In Dalton Connect's case, turn around his career. That could be huge for you. And then you get a young, promising, potential 3-and-D wing, right? So now you got kind of a balance, and then you got a bunch of picks and stuff, right? Or like the Knicks, the problem with the Knicks is like, yeah, like you could get, like an OG or whatever, but like OG's probably not like you get OG and Mikal Bridges, sure. Or like Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe you get Karl Anthony Towns and OG, right? But then it's like, okay, well, now what? Right? Like, you just start Cat next to Miles Turner. So it's like OG Cat, Ryan Hollins is kind of coming into his own. So maybe you're a good competitive team, but then you're just kind of, to me, that just feels like you're kind of just trying to stay above water until you start getting picks back. And then, like, hey, for the next 10 years, let's just try to like be decent, right? Like, I don't know. It's just a weird spot for the Bucks to be in, and I just don't see it getting better. I think you need to trade Giannis. I think you should have been trade Giannis. I know it's tough pill to swallow, but it's the reality. Anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Also not, if you enjoy these types of videos, truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.